Good morning and welcome to the Quoted Companies Alliance 5th Annual Conference, Growth in Troubled Times. Thank you to you all for attending. We really appreciate it, and I hope that you will have an enjoyable and fulfilling day. I'm delighted that so many of you can join us to debate how we can fuel the growth of the small and mid-sized quoted company sector, particularly as we move through these increasingly troubled times. This is a great opportunity for you to network over coffee, lunch, after the breakout sessions, there's tea. And if there's anybody that you would like to meet, then just let us know and we'll do our best to put you and the other person in touch. And I look forward to meeting as many of you as possible during the course of the day. I've got some thank yous, but also some housekeeping reminders, so please do silence your mobile phones and any other gadgets. But also look at your mobiles from time to time to check our tweets about the conference. Our Twitter name and hashtag are written on your agenda. Exits are clearly marked and no fire alarm practices are scheduled. The other thing is just please do fill in your feedback forms as you go through, because the feedback is really helpful in helping us to develop events such as these. And now to the thank yous. I'd like to thank our sponsors who've made this event possible, our headline sponsor, Winterflood Securities, and our supporting sponsors, ICAP Securities and Derivatives Exchange, ISDX, and Jordan's Corporate Law. Thank you very much for doing so. We really appreciate your support. I'd also like to thank YouGov for their support with the interactive questions today, but also with their help throughout the year on the various surveys that we do. So thank you to them. Thank you also to each and every one of our speakers who've given us their time and experience for free. We really appreciate their support as well. And a final thank you to Samantha Green and the QCA team for what they've done in putting this conference together. Their stamina, their good spirit and their support is very much appreciated. Now, we as an organisation have a stronger and larger membership base than we've ever had before. We've got over 250 organisations who are members, ranging from companies in the FTSE 350, through small and active growth companies on AIM and ISDX, and one or two pre-IPO companies who want to learn more about how the city works. The last time we were at this level was during, or just slightly below this level, was during the dot-com boom. Next year, we celebrate our 25th anniversary. We were set up to fight the closure of the then growth market, the exchange's growth market, the USM, and we successfully influenced the exchange to establish AIM. Our subsequent work has focused on ensuring that the UK's primary markets, particularly the growth markets, continue to exist and flourish to serve their purpose. In that light, we're paying particular attention at the moment to the proposed merger between the London Stock Exchange and Deutsche Börse and its effect on AIM. Our recent meeting with Xavier Rollet and Carsten Kengeta were both encouraging and welcome. And reflecting on this, I'd just like to draw your attention to the prospectus published this week, which, when referring to high-growth businesses and SMEs, said Holdco and the boards are committed to building and further developing their existing markets and initiatives that serves this vital customer segment, including London Stock Exchange's AIM. In such a legal document, it's good to read of such a clear commitment. Inevitably, concerns have been expressed about the future of AIM, and this merger is a good opportunity to address this issue. We've seen articles calling for a vision for AIM and for a more proactive engagement by the Stock Exchange in setting out AIM's future strategy. But this can only happen with the active participation from across the small cap ecosystem. With wider market engagement and involvement, AIM can continue to be fit for purpose in providing patient capital for growth companies over the coming years. But it needs the involvement of all of us. There's a commitment on both sides to continue our dialogue about AIM's future, and from what both Xavier Rollet and Carsten Kengeta have told us, the new group's intentions for AIM are positive. We'll keep up our pressure and our encouragement in equal measure. So what else has been happening? Well, in the last year, the Quoted Companies Alliance has been appointed a nominating body of the takeover panel, and our chairman, Michael Higgins, is now a member of that panel. Our latest survey, which we produced in conjunction with BDO and YouGov, shows that business confidence remains high, although the UK referendum is seen as the greatest potential risk to small and mid-cap quoted companies. It's encouraging to see that the companies, though, are forecasting strong growth, whatever the outcome of the UK referendum. And I think this demonstrates the resilience of our sector. While facing troubled times with political and economic uncertainty, they remain optimistic about their own business prospects. And I'm sure we'll have more debate about that in our Brexit panel. We've been actively campaigning for the last two and a half years on the Prospectus Directive, so that companies can raise equity finance from the public more effectively. We've had numerous meetings with the European Commission, the European Parliament, the Treasury, the FCA and ESMA. This has enabled us to influence heavily what the prospectus regulation will look like, and we're pleased that the Commission have taken on so many of our suggestions. Our work on the prospectus regulation will continue until its adoption, to ensure that the minimum disclosure regimes adequately address the specific needs of our smaller companies. And more about that perhaps in our breakout sessions later. And I should add a special thanks to the working group who have persevered with this subject over the last 2.5 years, drawn from our legal expert group and our corporate finance expert group. Just as importantly and more pertinently, we're campaigning for clarity and simplicity in the imminent market abuse regulation rules and how they apply to smaller companies. We want to ensure that this new regime works as well as it can and does not add disproportionately to the burden or requirements for smaller companies. Particularly, we're seeking to ensure that companies on growth markets can have the exemption that's due to them from maintaining up-to-date insider lists now rather than in 2 years' time. And there'll be more about that in our breakout groups this afternoon. We've also spent a great deal of time looking at the impact, the future impact on small cap investment research as a result of MiFID. It's good to be able to tell you that our efforts have been rewarded in some part, with the Commission modifying its rules to allow research paid for by companies, produced by brokers or other research providers, to continue to be produced, to continue to be available. And there'll be more about that in our second panel this morning. We continue to push for tax incentives to encourage investment in growth companies, allowing the costs of equity, raising equity to be tax deductible, as well as calling for the 5% shareholding requirement on entrepreneurs' relief to be removed. And we're delighted to see that in the most recent budget, it introduced one of our proposals, investor relief, where investors who buy new shares in AIM and ISDX stocks and hold them for 3 years can have a capital gains tax rate reduced down to 10%. We continue to develop our events and materials to inform the market. Our fund manager events are particularly popular, and we're about to revise and publish our REMCO guide. Our guides and the consultations we respond to are very much the work and dedication of our expert groups. We rely on their goodwill hugely. And the time and effort that they put in is much, much appreciated, and it benefits all of you. So thank you to all of you who do this important work. So I think you can see that the Quoted Companies Alliance does have a role. As an independent membership organisation, we are absolutely reliant on your support and your subscriptions. Thank you very much for supporting us. And if you have any questions about what we're doing or how we could improve what we're doing, please just take the time to collar me and have a word with me during the course of today or at any time thereafter. Now, this is an interactive day, and we've allowed plenty of time for questions, so please take the opportunity to get what you need out of each session. And as usual, we have our interactive questions powered by YouGov, and you've got voting pads on the table. And I just thought we might start off with a first question. So if we could have that question on the screen, please, that would be great. let's have a look. So how positive are you about the future for small and mid-sized quoted companies? So 1, strongly positive, 2, slightly positive, all the way down to 6, don't know. And I don't want to see any don't knows. Some people do take a while to think about these things, don't they? Okay, so let's see the results. So we have, I think we've got some room for improvement during the course of this morning. So we'll run the question after we've had the panel sessions and see whether we can move some of the neutrals and slightly positives towards the strongly positives, and hopefully get the strongly negatives and the slightly negatives to change their opinion substantially. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is to, lost my place in my notes, yes. What I'd like to do now is just sort of give you an idea of what we've got coming up. We've got our Brexit panel, which I think will be interesting, and I think it may be a first during the course of this referendum. There are no politicians involved. We've got our investor Q&A, and also we've got our breakout sessions which are happening after lunch. And these, I think, will be very, very informative. And if you don't know about some of the subjects, liquidity, what's happening in the regulatory world, which will have an impact on you, then I think you very much should be there for that. But before all of that happens, I'd like to welcome our keynote speaker, Sasha Sedan. He's Director of Corporate Governance at Legal and General Investment Management. L&G are the largest pension fund in this country, and they are probably the biggest shareholder in the UK. There may be one other, but they're certainly up there with them. And Sasha has taken the lead in many of the issues surrounding governance in some of our more public companies, and I'm sure he'll refer to one of those as he talks. And he has a very refreshing way of describing the world of corporate behavior. Recently, he was reported to have said that companies trying to get excessive executive pay, to get that through, often tell him that they are unique. And he meets 50 or so of these unique companies every reporting season. He may just mention how the buy side keep a collective watch on companies, including the smallest companies on the market. So Sasha is here to share with us his insights. And as you will see from his biography, his experience as an investor informs his view of corporate governance. And I think if there's time, he's very happy to take some questions at the end. So could you please join me in welcoming Sasha Sedan?